welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. You're logged into, just to make sure you're in the right place, streamlining operations and improving efficiency with a digital tool set. This webinar is hosted by the NTMA Tech Team and featuring ProShop and focused on machining. So thanks for joining. We've got a few people still streaming in, but I think we might go ahead and get started. Paul, you want to go ahead and do a few introductions?
Yeah, sure. Well, hi everybody. My name is Paul. I am one of the co-founders here at ProShop, and it's a great pleasure to also have Justin Quinn from Focus on Machining here today. So welcome, Justin, and thanks for doing this with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a good topic, and many shops, looking to improve technology and just efficiencies other than the actual shop floor. So this will be good.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I like to start the webinars that we participate in with sharing our mission statement because it's so important to us. And that is, we deliver powerful manufacturing software by deeply understanding our clients' challenges in order to meaningfully improve their businesses and in turn their communities. And hopefully we can show how that actually, and hear from Justin about the impact we've had on their business and all the technology stuff that he's adopted. And I know Justin's shop is growing and hiring people, so there's the direct community impact. So it's pretty awesome stuff. So yeah, do you want to sort of take it from here, Brian? And
Yeah, thank you. And I apologize, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Brian Anderson. I'm with ProShop as well. Nice to meet everyone today, and hopefully we'll find this really useful. We're going to talk about the story of Focus on Machining and a little bit of Justin's background, and then discuss the benefits of Justin moving into paperless, kind of what drove him into needing to move into a more digital world, and of course, how all of that transpired. We'll talk about some of the impacts that he saw, and of course the results when everything is all said and done, and we're here today where we are now, and we get to see some pretty cool data on that. So let's go ahead and get started. Justin, you want to take a few minutes and talk about a little bit of your history and Focused on Machining?
Yeah, so many of you may already kind of know my background a little bit, but I took over Focus on Machining in 2016. Before that, I was in the banking industry, and before that, I was in the military as an aircraft mechanic. So I got out of the Air Force, got my degree in finance, worked in banking, and while I was in banking, I really missed the camaraderie of the military and kind of the hard work, blue collar type nature. And I really found that in manufacturing. I had a handful of customers in manufacturing, and every time I visit them, it really reminded me of the kind of people I've really enjoyed working with. So I went on a journey for about a year and a half trying to find a shop to buy, and came across Focused on Machining. And like I said, we took it over in late 2016, and I've been running it ever since then. Focus on Machining was a member of NTMA before that. I obviously continued that membership, and I've really gotten involved in NTMA both locally and at the national level. I'm the past president of the local chapter. I'm the current vice president as well as trustee, and I'm on the NTMA Tech Team as well as the NTMA nominating team. So I serve on multiple boards, both locally and nationally at NTMA. And then the one thing that really spurred this podcast was we won the Technology of Excellence Award last year. And the application for that award was really about how implementing technology has really improved our business, which we'll discuss here throughout this podcast, but really implementing a couple softwares, getting those softwares to work together with each other, and then just really streamlining a lot of our front-end processes in the shop using technology.
Awesome.
That's great.
For those
yeah,
that
congratulations.
A little more about Justin, Abra dropped it into the chat, but I interviewed Justin on my podcast last year, I guess now. So you can really hear the deep dive on his story. So check out that link.
Congratulations on the award. That's pretty awesome. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's chat for a few minutes about really what sent you down the path. One of the things we talked about before, just kind of behind the scenes, was your initial intent wasn't specifically to get into a paperless environment. You had some other sort of motives there. You want to kind of talk about that?
Yeah, so it wasn't, when I took the shop over, it was like a lot of shops where, it was Excel-based, email-driven, and that was pretty much the extent of software inside the shop. Everything was a created form, whether it was PDF or Excel, and those forms were printed out, handwritten on, as well as the blueprint, and then we would go from there, very paper-heavy driven, where that job packet would start as a handful of pages and grow to 10, 15, 20, 30 pages by the time the job was done. And then we would scan that on the back end, and then that was our historical record, was that scanned document. And so, when I first took over the shop, I quickly hated the process of printing out a form and handwriting who the customer was, what the part number was, how many we're making, material, just that whole process of printing out those forms and filling them out manually. And so that's what really got me interested in systems, which in turn, led us to being paperless today. And that started with just a simple ERP system, back in early 2017, where we purchased an industry standard kind of simple ERP system, and it did a lot. It got us, much farther down the road from where we were, but there were still a lot of things lacking. So we operated that system for a while, and then while we had that system up and running, we implemented paperless parts, and that's where we do a lot of our quoting and estimating. And then a couple years after that is when I met Paul and really started learning about ProShop. I had a desire to, further implement technology into the shop floor. We were ISO certified, which I wrote myself, wrote the manual, again, a paper binder, everything printed out. And I really wanted to get AS 9100 certified, but I wasn't willing and ready to stomach doing that manually. And that's how I honestly came about ProShop, discovered them through searching, AS 9100, ERP, and Paul and I did many sessions back then. Paul, I don't know if you remember or not, but I was highly skeptical, honestly. I was like, God, this just is too good to be true. It can't do all these things. And so Paul was kind enough to do many, many training sessions with me, webinars and demos, and finally pulled the trigger on ProShop. And it's been fabulous ever since. ProShop is really what took us to a complete paperless environment with integrated quality. We were already paperless on the estimate side with paperless, but now the two systems actually integrate with one another, which is fantastic. So we're taking our estimates, which occur on paperless parts, importing them into ProShop, and the entire process is paperless and digital.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in and say it was prudent to be skeptical. There's a lot of claims out there in the ERP world, and oftentimes, unfortunately, they don't come to fruition quite the way that some vendors say they will.
Yep.
So yeah, we're always happy to be put through the paces as much as possible. So
yeah, and it strikes me that you didn't actually reference moving in this direction due to customer needs. I mean, it sounds like a lot of this was driven just from you wanting to be better organized and have more visibility and cut down on errors and all that kind of stuff. Is that a fair statement, or did you also have some of your customers coming to you and saying, hey, we need this, we need that, and you weren't able to provide them with that kind of service?
No, I would definitely say it was much more internally driven. I had a strong desire to grow the shop and increase customer base, increase throughput. And when I looked at our processes and what it took just to process one PO or one job, there wasn't a scalable operation. I mean, I could have had a whole staff of office people just to create a job packet at the size we are today. So it was mostly internal, but I would say as we got integrated and a little deeper with ISO and now AS9100, yeah, customers are really pushing the envelope on what's required, and we're very well capable of meeting all those demands today. CMMC coming down the pike is another one that is putting a lot of demand and pressure on shops, and using our ERP to help manage that process is really going to help us achieve success with CMMC, not only on the audit side, but with the customer satisfaction side. So again, just having everything integrated into a digital ERP system, it just helps in so many of those areas.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of the idea that if you have a vision, it's easier to organize your thoughts, easier to organize the things you need to look at, and kind of move in a direction, and versus really understanding, like you said, you kind of mapped your process and realized that it just wasn't at all scalable, and being in a digital environment changes that pretty dramatically. Yeah,
it's as you'll see in a few slides here, we've grown pretty significantly, and we've done that with fewer office staff than we had back when I first took over. Right.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that process, kind of relating what it was versus what you're able to realize working in a more digital environment. Obviously, we have a few bullet points here, but a few of those key things are really cutting down on the errors that happen in the process, being able to capture data and move it along from one step to the next. So everybody knows what's going on. It's not just one person that has the tribal knowledge, so to speak, and even just how does that equate into higher throughput in the office? I mean, usually when we think about a manufacturing environment, a lot of us don't think about throughput as something that happens outside of the shop floor, but indeed it does. And so, how are you able to really see that change in terms of being able to throughput more with the same staff, and even not just throughput more, but do it in a way that was more beneficial for the rest of the organization?
Yeah, so it, starting at the quoting process, our process before software was literally print out all the prints and write down the quantities the customer is requesting on the prints, and then walk those through the shop and talk to the experts and say, hey, this part, it's made out of stainless steel. They want 10 of them. How long is it going to take to make these? What's your setup time? How many ops? What's your run times? And we would do that. We did that until we implemented paperless, and of course that brought up a lot of notes that never got captured. Right? It's like, oh yeah, we can do that in 4 ops, 5 minutes per. But we're going to need this tool, we're going to need this gauge, we're going to need this, and this. And it was just a conversation. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, well, I'll remember to order that when the order comes through. Well, you never remember those things. And then the parts get made and they go to quality, and you're like, hey, where's that gauge we said we needed? Oh, let me go ahead and order that and overnight it and spend $120 to overnight it. And it's a $60 gauge kind of thing. So,
right.
That was the process with implementing paperless, now, and it was very, let's see, what's the term here? We would do it in chunks, right? So we would print off that package and get that whole package pushed through the shop, and then do the next one. We weren't able to multitask and work on many things at the same time. Whereas now, in our digital environment, we're uploading those requests to our paperless parts. We're laying out the entire quote package, so every line item is a part number. We can, you can see what quantities are there. The system kind of auto builds the basic router for us, so it includes a programming op, it includes a couple manufacturing ops, inspection, shipping. It accounts for part marking, and it does that all automated based on how the part is set up with a couple clicks of the button. So first off, just setting up the quote is much easier. You know, we're auto emailing things over and just auto building those quotes. And then what we can do is take the quote and piecemeal it, right? We can tag and chat with people that need to be involved. So we'll reach out to a meal programmer and say, hey, look at this. I need this one specific thing from you. I need you to, how long is it going to take to program? Or I know it's 4 ops and here's my setup times. I know my run time should be about this. What's the breakout? Or send it to quality. Hey, any tools we need for this job? And that all happens at the same time, right? So instead of taking that one piece of paper and going to each location, now all of those communication channels are going out at one time, and the individuals are doing their tasks and sending them back. So it's really shortened the time frame that we can generate quotes and build that data. And then they're able, through the chat and note features, able to put those things in there. Hey, we need to purchase this thread gauge, or, you know, this is pretty tough material. We're gonna need to put extra money in this job for some special tooling. So all of those things are now captured digitally, which once that happens, then they're flowing into the ERP system, and we're taking action on them at order entry and not on the back end when we need the tools.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you know, it's definitely one of those things where you're not replacing the technical knowledge and the skill set of people on your team. You're just utilizing them much more efficiently and being able to document it in a very clear and fast way, so you can benefit from all that information throughout the entire project without having to revisit it and reinvent the wheel, you know, at every step along the way. So I think you know, when people think about automating things or digitizing things, there might often be a sense of, hey, you know, that might take over my job or something like that. And that's really not what you found. It's much more about giving everyone on the team better tools to get from point A to point Z for that project.
Yeah, and I think the natural thing for shops is, you know, the quicker you can respond to quotes and the better you can serve your customers, it's going to bring more business. So even if you're not in a growth mindset, doing these things and being more efficient and more responsive and more, you know, more reactive to your customers' needs, it's gonna allow your shop to grow. So even though you might not have that on your mind, you'll soon realize that now that you've cleared some of these bottlenecks up, the workload just kind of fills back up to the top, if you will. And the same amount of people are going to be able to do more tasks.
Right.
Yeah, and we all know that oftentimes, certainly in some industries, the first one to get that quote in that looks reasonably within the price range is going to get that order. So I'm sure you're winning more business because you're quoting so much more quickly.
Yeah,
and I had a couple other questions.
Industries now that are like that, and it can be tough to manage, but yeah, the faster you can go, the more work you can do.
Yeah, and so I had a couple other questions. So you mentioned like the old way where you would try to remember the thread gauge and you wouldn't, and you have to expedite it. Do you have any kind of anecdotal numbers for how much money you're now saving by not having to expedite and overnight things nearly as often?
Yeah, so it's been a handful of years since we've done this, but I spent at the end of 1 year, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I went through our tooling costs and I kind of divvied it up, and it was, you know, I don't remember the numbers. Let's say we spent $15,000 on cutting tools as a total. Maybe $7,500 of that was the actual tool, and the rest was red shipping or UPS. So it was a 1-for-1 expense back then. And just by being organized, we were able to cut out almost all of those expedited shipping options, which, you know, put so much money just back in the bank at the shop. And we still expedited a few things here and there, but it wasn't the normal. It was a pretty drastic change. Same with material. You know, we're now, you know, some of the interesting things. I used to always just purchase material and say, yep, we'll take this as soon as possible, because it was chaos in the shop, and we just wanted to have everything on hand because you never knew when a job was going to get pushed back because we didn't have what we needed. And now I'm able to actually tell my vendors, hey, here's a PO for this, but I don't need this for 3 weeks. Please don't deliver until this date. And so materials arriving much closer to the need date for the job than it used to, which helps
freeing up cash flow. Yeah. And then can you also elaborate on this part, going from quote to PO to work order in a couple of hours versus many days? You know, for those that are still in a paper process, like what practically changed, you know, to be able to do that? Yeah,
so I remember before we had ProShop, when we were on our other ERP system, or even before that, you know, now the bigger the PO, the more excited I get, right? Like I don't get too excited over small POs anymore, but back then it was the opposite. Like the bigger the PO, I was like, oh my Lord, like this is going to take me a week just to get all of this organized and create the job packets, fill out all the forms. And now it really, you know, I can process a 10-line item PO. Let's say it takes me, yesterday I processed 3 brand new POs, brand new part numbers, new to the company, never made them before. I did all 3 of them within an hour. And that was receive PO, get a PO into the ERP system, create the job information, send it to quality to start bubble to print, and purchase material. So I did this for all 3 POs within an hour. Three POs. It was 3 POs, 4 line items. So not drastic, but if that was 3 POs and 30 total line items, it maybe would have taken me an extra 20 minutes. So it's really not a lot more work based on the size of the PO. You know, a single line PO might take me 20 minutes, where a 10-line PO might take me 30. So it's very scalable because it doesn't, you know, the amount of time it takes doesn't exponentially get larger with the line items on the PO. It's pretty much a PO takes this amount of time and maybe add a couple minutes per line item. So yesterday, you know, like I said, we received 3 POs in. Going all the way back to the quote, I want to say we spent maybe 30 minutes, I'd say 20 to 30 minutes per quote. And these were 3 different quotes as well. So, you know, adding it all up from quote to PO, I'd say well within 2 hours, an hour and a half, all of this work was done. Quote, PO, work order, you know, quality was bubbling to print, and material was already on order.
Right. Yeah, and I know, I mean, you're obviously a pretty small, lean front office team, so there's communication is really easy. I know I've heard the same scenario in bigger organizations where they, you know, get a customer PO, they literally print it off, and, you know, it goes to 4 or 5 different people's desks for confirmation and contract review and risk assessment. And it could literally be, you know, 3-4 days later where it finally shows back up somewhere where they can start issuing work orders. So I think this problem is exacerbated in larger companies to an even greater degree.
Yeah, and the only things we're printing off are those little box labels. That's basically our traveler now. That's after everything's in the system, we print off a box label that has a part image. If it's not ITAR, has the information on it, quantity, and must leave by date, and that gets printed, put in a sleeve, and that's the traveler that travels throughout the shop and just kind of identifies material. Stays with the job throughout the shop.
Yeah, because obviously that traceability is critical. Well, let's dig in here and talk a little bit about the flow of data from paperless parts into ProShop. Can you kind of walk us through that?
Yeah, so the screenshot on the left there is a snapshot of paperless parts, and that's basically what our estimates look like. Up above, where you don't see in this image, is like the customer information, part number, a digital image of the model, some of that customer specific information, but then we get straight down into materials, right? What material is it? And then on the left or on the right of this, you'll see all the numbers, the costs, the pricing, et cetera. But really, it's laid out very similar to our ERP system. And so we're quoting for our programming time, our machine time, both setup, runtime, our outside processing. These parts have some laser engraved, and then we're quoting for quality. So that's another thing that we never used to capture. We would never quote time for inspection, which, you know, everybody knows that that's usually where things really get slowed down, and where, you know, you might make a simple part, it might get on and off that machine quickly, but it might sit in quality longer than it was on the machine. So estimating or putting pricing in on quality has really helped us as well. And so once that's done, obviously send that to the customer. They send the PO, and then we will facilitate the order through paperless parts. So we will go in and say, hey, this quote was ordered, and if there's any changes to what we sent, we can make those adjustments on the fly. Let's say they order one more piece, or we give multiple lead time options generally, so we might make an adjustment based on when they need it. So once we facilitate that order, we have an integrations dashboard built in, and paperless and ProShop have really worked together to make this feature available. So it's basically CSV coming out of paperless parts, integrating into ProShop into an estimate, and then in ProShop we take that estimate, turn it into our part, and then once we have everything built out, then we create the PO, bring the part in, and then we're off to the races. So that middle image there, that's just a quick snapshot of our integration dashboard. And like I said, every time we facilitate an order through paperless parts, it shows up on the integration dashboard. We can then import that into ProShop, and then once that's done, I build out the part level. And what I mean by build it out, as you can see in our quote, it's pretty rudimentary. It's really all the things that are happening on the shop floor. But inside ProShop is a lot more steps that really help us ensure things flow smoothly. So our first operation is always manufacturing planning, right? We always will sit down and discuss every new job. Actually, we go through every job, and sometimes we just say, oh, nope, it really runs great, no changes, run like it did last time. But we go through every single job, and we meet about it, we talk about it, and then it goes into our programming steps. And then we actually are having a step for CMM programming. We have our pre-processing checklist there. So that's all kind of the contract review steps. I have a step in there to make sure that the box label is printed and given the quality, make sure that the files are uploaded. That's where we're queuing our work for purchasing. So we're setting the status on our materials, which then queues purchasing to go purchase those. We're doing a tool check, make sure we have all of our tooling that we need, any special tooling we need. And then there's also steps in there for quality. They go in and bubble the print, and they're adding, so there's a third software here that we haven't discussed, where we upload our blueprints into the software. It auto bubbles them for us, automatically creates the inspection plan per bubble note. We are also importing that into ProShop, and that generates our inspection plan for that part number, which then in turns our quality and flows through to the AS9102. So, so yeah, once the order is generated, it's imported into ProShop. I think it takes maybe 3 button clicks to do that. I go through into ProShop, another few button clicks, and I have my part built out. I might be copying some notes from one to the other, and then once all my parts are built, then I'm importing the PO as well. So that's an import. I'm going through my checks on the PO, uploading the file of the PO, and then we're generating the work orders in ProShop, and then that's where all the purchasing steps are generated from there.
I love it. And the keen eyes will notice that some of these times are different, but this is after running this job a few times and you made some tweaks to your targets or whatnot, right? So.
Correct, yeah. And that's another thing really nice about ProShop is, being in a digital environment, when my machinists, when they get done with op one or they get that first part, they get an automatic pop-up that says, okay, what was your cycle time? What was all this information? And when they input that information, it updates ProShop real time. So I can easily see, where we estimated the part at versus where it actually ran at. And if it's better, fantastic. If it's worse, that gives us the opportunity to go and discuss and say, what's going on here? Is there Is there a tool we can purchase? Is there something we can actively do to help achieve the estimate time that we quoted it?
Awesome. And then I know we wanted to share this quote here. You want to elaborate a little bit on this?
Yeah, so one of the big challenges of running a shop is just the little details that get missed, especially up front in the office where you're interacting with the customers. They are constantly giving us information about things that are needed that might not be on the print, or like I said earlier, where we're talking with quality and they say, hey, they needs that gauge. And really we've come down to the environment now to where the only time we miss something is when it gets missed up front in estimating. When we didn't recognize that we didn't have that gauge, we didn't factor in that we would need a couple of end mills for this job instead of just the standard, one per job kind of thing. So if we ever miss something, it's because it got missed in estimating. But our secondary step is that manufacturing planning step, and that's where we catch anything we do miss at estimating, and that's the first step in the process. So as soon as that work order is generated, it populates onto our it populates onto a report that I built. And so once a week, twice a week, depending on what the workload is like, we sit down with a team and we go through that report, and anything that does not have a manufacturing planning step completed generates on that report. So we go through, we look at it, we look at the notes that were generated during quote, and then we add, if there was anything missed, if we did miss that gauge, that's where we catch it, right before it hits anything. And so we may have missed it at estimating, but at least we'll get it ordered and it's not going to delay the job.
Right on.
That's great.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I estimated for many years, so I know the potential to miss something because there's so many details to figure out.
Yeah, and you're always up against the clock, right? I mean, nobody ever says, here's a quote, please take 4 weeks to get this done. It's usually, can I get this tomorrow? Can I get this in 2 days, 3 days? And it doesn't seem like there's ever enough time to do quotes. So it's always kind of a rushed environment, and it's understandable to know that some things would get missed, and if we just minimize them the best we can, we'll be all right.
So yeah, let's kind of switch gears a bit and talk about how all of this filters down. I mean, obviously at the front end, we know that the more information we can share from step to step, the easier things get, the more visibility you have. But when we move to the shop floor, it's very common to say, oh, well, if I'm a machinist, I have what I need, and I sit at my machine and make my parts, and that's what I do all day. But in reality, there's a lot of opportunity moving from a traditional paper-based system to provide a lot more information to the shop floor, and then of course that equates to throughput improvements and just sort of general visibility improvements. You want to kind of share some of your experience with that and what your shop employees sort of have thought about the process?
Yeah, so our scheduling process before ProShop was a wall of bins, a bunch of bins on a wall that had basically machine names on them. And so what we would do is we would just take the travelers and put them in their respective machine bin, and we would prioritize front to back, so the next job is the one in the front and the last one's in the back. And just like you said, so the machinists, their job was to make the parts. And so their day-to-day was to, get the machine up and running, get the material. And once that job was done, they would roll the cart up to quality and then grab the next job, not knowing what the next job was, right? They'd never seen it before. So the first time they're looking at the job is when it's time to start working on the job, which there's a lot of lag time from last cut to first cut on the next one with that environment. There was sitting down, looking at the print for, 10, 15, maybe an hour, maybe they were programmed, maybe they had to program it. So now we're going to program it while the machine's not doing anything. They're going to go find their material. They're going to start looking at the tool lists that are already in the machine, changing out tools, adding new tools. So really, they were only getting to the next job when they were done with the original one, which created a lot of downtime. So now, having all of our jobs scheduled in ProShop to their respective machines, our employees are looking not only at their next job as they're running the job they're currently on, but they're looking even farther ahead than that. They're looking at the entire schedule. So we schedule every job as it comes into the machine shop. And so they, when we're really busy, that machinist knows what he's going to be doing for the next 2 months. He knows every job that's scheduled on his machine for 2 months. And so that he can just start working through it where, while he's running one part, he's programming for the next one. He might go grab a cart. He knows exactly where the material is. He knows when it arrives. He can visually see if the material's here or not. So once it is here, he might go grab a cart, go grab the material. Maybe it needs to be cut, maybe not. He might stage that at his machine. He can pre-build tools. He knows what tools are in the machine. He knows what tools he needs for the next job. So all of these things that are happening to get ready for the next job are happening while the current job is running. We're doing a lot of programming ahead. Very rarely is a part ever not programmed before it hits the shop floor, where that used to be the norm. It used to hit the shop floor and then it would get programmed when it was time to run on a machine. Now, almost every job is programmed at the time it's on the floor or before it even gets to the floor. So we've really gone from, having a lot of downtime between jobs to as little as possible, to where, that cart's being rolled up to quality. And as soon as he gets back to the machine, he's loading tools, he's loading the program, and he's making his first cut pretty darn quick after that previous job was done.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I think we all know what it's like to have to rummage through a stack of papers, as you see on the left, trying to find a little bit of detail versus being able to just see it on a screen and even dive in if you need to get into more detail than what you have in a simple report or dashboard view. It's really at your fingertips and a click or two away versus having to sift through 50 other jobs that are going to happen in the next 2 months.
Yeah, and it's highly visual, right? Like we might go through the planning stage and we might call that part, that funky S looking bracket, right? Because that's what it looks like. And so as the machinists are at the schedule, just looking through, they're not really recognizing what work order is what or what customer or PO number is what. But when they see that image, like here on the right, when there's that funky S bracket we talked about 2 weeks ago, I know exactly what we need to do there. So having those visual images is very powerful as well in the system.
And I think you told me a story once where you received an order, and of course, when the work order gets created, if you auto assign it to the planners, they instantly get notified. And the very next, I think it was one of the first times you realized that as soon as they get notified, they're looking at the drawings, they're already starting their plan, and the order was just put in minutes before, right?
Yeah, so we have dashboards in every department here at the shop, and so for us, quality is really the next step after the work order entry. And currently, I'm still doing the purchasing. We've had people here that did purchasing in the past, but once that part is in the system and that work order is generated, instantaneously purchasing knows, I've got demand. I've got to go buy this material. And quality also knows, brand new job, brand new part, I need to bubble this. So oftentimes, before I can get up off my chair and say, hey, we've got some new work, they're already well aware of it because they can see it populate on their dashboard, and they're working on it before. And now we're in the environment. I don't even have to say, hey, we got new work. It just, people know to work from the dashboards and look at the dashboards, and we keep the pages refreshing automatically, and and when they see something pop up, they just get to it right when it's there, and there's no lag time. I don't need to tell anybody to do anything. It just happens.
Do you feel like that? Do you feel like that change happened organically, or was it something that you really had to drive as how you wanted people to work within their individual roles?
There was definitely a little bit, and I wouldn't call it drive, but just early on, you know, where when we first implemented ProShop and it was, you know, dashboards were new. I would just walk through and say, hey, just remember, check your dashboard, check your dashboard. There were, and I would tell them early on, hey, new work, you know, go check your dashboard, do your work. And then I would slowly back out of that to where I wouldn't tell them. And if I notice, you know, because I can monitor the same dashboards here, I have a big screen just right here that kind of monitors a handful of different dashboards. If I notice something sitting in the queue early on, I would go by and say, hey, did you see that new work? Oh, no, I didn't check the dashboard. And so real quickly, and this all happened, you know, within a few weeks, real quickly, they got into the habit of just always check the dashboard. And we have TVs set up everywhere. So it's not like they need to go actively look at the dashboard. It's on TVs everywhere. So as long as they just remember to glance up at it a couple times a day or daily, that's all that we need to happen now.
And I know we need to keep moving along here, but I also wanted to just ask you quickly about repeat jobs and the difference between a paper process and a non-paper process. I know that it's common that, you know, with paper travelers, paper setup sheets, tool lists, you know, if that gets misfiled or lost or is now obsolete, it can be a real challenge to try to figure out what you did last time and try to, you know, do that again. So how has that changed with the ability to like add digital pictures or videos or have that just no chance of things getting lost, and how is having it be the latest?
So a repeat job before ProShop sometimes was harder than a new job, you know, because like you said, you're going through that scanned file package, and maybe the machinist wrote a bunch of notes on the print of, oh, I did this and this, or this is the offset, this is what tool I used. But you know, I don't know many machinists, and I'm guilty of this, that have legible handwriting. You know, I don't have very good handwriting, so not only does the handwriting start not that great, but then you scan it and it gets further degraded. And then maybe, you know, you were printing that scanned file out to give to them, so it's degraded one more time. And yeah, before you know it, you're spending more time trying to decipher what you did last time than it took to maybe set it up originally. And so now, on a repeat job, we're documenting on the operation inside ProShop what all the notes are, what the offsets are, what the steps are, what we're cutting our material to, you know, material lengths. We're taking images of that material in a vise, what vise we use. You know, we're taking images after op one. Here's what it looks like. Here's how we're holding it. And all that's uploaded into ProShop on the operation. So when they're on op one, they can see all those images. Okay, it looks like last time we used a standard Kurt vise with Mighty Bite jaws. We're just biting right into the material and cutting apart. Op two, you know, maybe they're soft jaws, or maybe we're on thin parts. We're clamping onto a fixture plate. It's just super easy to show that in a picture rather than trying to explain it through language and typing.
Yeah. Good stuff. Let's keep on schedule here. You already talked a little bit about the inspection process. Can you just elaborate on what that used to be using paper forms and what that works today? So
this was another one where I was like, there's got to be a better way. You know, before that, we would, if we had a digital PDF, I literally would go into Adobe and make a bunch of little red circles and drag them to the dimensions, and then make a little red number and drag that inside the red circle, and that's how we created our bubble prints. And then we had an Excel form that we generated, and so then I would take that bubble print and say, okay, number one, diameter 1/4 inch plus or minus 5 thou, manually type that into the Excel spreadsheet under number one, and just create our inspection plan that way. And then that was a printed form that got printed out, put it into the job packet, and then the machinist would, or quality would input that data into the form and then scan it on the back end, et cetera. Now with our auto bubble software and the auto generation of that inspection plan, that all happens with a few clicks of a button. And if the bubble software, and we use high QA just for everybody's knowledge, if it does it perfectly, it's really like 3 clicks of a button, and we have that exportable CSV that we're putting into ProShop. Every now and again, they need to go in and adjust some things. Oh, it misread that nomenclature on the print, and we just make a quick change, save it, and then we're exporting. So and then we export that into ProShop, and our inspection plan, which is the image you see in the top left there, is built automatically. So you can see we've got our dimension tag, we've got the drawing description, we got what inspection equipment we're going to use, and then our tolerance zone. And when quality or the machinists are inputting data, it's very visual. It's green if it's good, it's yellow if it's close, and it's red if it's bad. And if it's bad and red, it automatically pops up an NCR form. We can fill out, an NCR for that scrap part, and then quality is handling those on the back end. But all this information is done live, is done right at the spot of inspection. And then when we go to create our quality packages on the back end, this used to be such a pain. We would have to sift through the files, find the material search, print those out, find our inspection report, print that out, or copy it, just build that package manually. Now we have a full AS9102 with one click of a button. We go to our inspection op, we print and generate the forms. It automatically pulls in our material search that we've uploaded when our vendor sent them to us. It automatically prints our AS9102 form with all of our inspection data, automatically prints any search from outside processing other than material, automatically prints our CFC, and that's all done with just one click of a button. It packages it all together in one PDF. So we're either emailing that to the customer, or some of our customers like it printed, put in the box. So the post quality packaging of the documents and search is really, really simplified.
I love it. That is one of the magic features in ProShop, is this auto inspection package generation. It really can be a lifesaver. Awesome. Well, let's get into some actual real results and metrics. So do you want to walk us through sort of, these bullets here?
So immediately after implementing ProShop, we saw 50% back-to-back growth for 2 years, and then 30% in the third year. And so that really was facilitated, like I said earlier, just being able to respond to customers better, having more knowledge on the shop floor, getting things moved through the shop. So we've really, grown the shop internally without adding a bunch of equipment. I essentially have the same number of machines I do when I bought the shop. We've upgraded some of them, so we've replaced old machines with new, but I really haven't added new machine count to the floor. So this is all internal organic growth through just being more efficient. We did add a shift in this timeline, so we added a shift, increased our man hours in the shop, but this is all really just creating efficiencies throughout the shop and how we've been able to grow through those efficiencies. And one of the things I'm most proud of is the profitability. We really stayed consistent throughout those growth years, and I think a lot of companies and shops will know that in rapid growth and environments, it's really hard to maintain profitability. You're hiring like crazy. You're just making decisions sometimes just to keep up, and those don't always match with profitability. So to grow that much and stay profitable and consistent throughout that time is something I'm really proud of. On-time delivery has only improved. You know, before this digital environment, a bad month for us was, you know, 30-40% on-time delivery. You know, just normal shop where everything's on fire. Customers are screaming at you, trying to figure out, you know, when's their stuff going to get done, and you're telling one customer it'll be a couple weeks, but you're making a job that another customer is upset at, and so it's just a pain in the ass environment to deal with. But now on a bad month for us, 70, you know, just sub 80% is bad for us, and we've had a couple months here this year where we've had 100% on time deliver. I'd say we are averaging pretty decently in the high 80s, low 90s, but it's not uncommon to have a 100% on time month either. And then, yeah, your last topic here, you know, we're trying to, so part of going ProShop, going full digital is just trying to up our I'm monitoring purchasing, I'm monitoring quality, I'm monitoring backlog, I'm monitoring on-time delivery. And then we walk into the other departments and we can see that, wow, quality has their own dashboard. They see work that's on the shop floor that's not ready for quality yet before it gets to quality. You know, they can see it on their dashboard. So showing them the system and how it works and how the shop uses it really gives them a sense of ease, because one of their biggest concerns is not whether we can physically make the parts or not, but can you deliver quality parts on time? That's what they're trying to alleviate. And I think a lot of those concerns are alleviated once we show them our environment and how we manage the process from beginning to end.
Yeah, I think that's so insightful. You know, one of the things I've been saying for years is that people in supply chain and quality, they're really in the risk mitigation business, right? Their job is to make sure that they work with shops that are going to not mess up and not have late parts or bad parts, because that has such a huge ripple effect into their production process or launching rockets or whatever they're doing. And so, yeah, when you can instill that confidence that you have really strong business processes and systems, that's a very attractive proposition.
Yep. And it really, you know, they're like gatekeepers, right? They're a lot of the big OEMs I've noticed they're more gatekeeper mentality, where no, we're not taking on new shops. We don't need to introduce any more chaos to our environment. But once you show to them that, no, this is how we operate, man, they are all about getting you rushed through that system and getting all the documents signed and, you know, getting all the information so they can start sending you quotes.
Yeah. And then last topic before we get questions going. So I guess if people do have questions, great time to start putting them in the Q&A section. You want to talk about your recruiting of employees and how that's improved too? Yeah.
So, you know, this also has helped me step up my game or move up the food chain, if you will. You know, as we've taken on more OEM aerospace work, we've had a higher need for quality management people. We've had a higher need for more robust programmers, better setup machinists. You know, so we've actually hired a lot higher up in the skill chain when it comes to both machining and quality. And my quality manager actually, he came to us. He was looking to leave his existing shop, and you know, he told me after the fact that it was the systems that we had in place that pushed him towards us. Obviously, we had a good company. I think there were probably opportunities closer to his home, but being in the quality management role and the one doing the certs and the inspections and all that, he knew what a pain in the butt that could be in a paper environment or an ERP system that didn't deal with quality. And when I showed him that, here's how you create your inspection plan, and you just upload this and you download and you import, and then the cert packet, you just go to this operation, you click this button, and here's your PDF. He was like knocked out of his chair kind of thing. He's like, oh my God, like, when can I start kind of thing? Like, when can I get all over my life and just have this be my environment? So it's really helped us attract employees. And then the whole onboarding process, I have a checklist of all the things we go through. We cover safety topics. I introduce them to the team, show them where exits are, all of these things are in a checklist. So we manage that in ProShop now. So I have my checklist is saved in ProShop. It's basically an onboarding task inside ProShop. And so I just pull up that task. We do all the checklist items. And then the first thing that they do when I release them to the floor is they go into ProShop and do training inside ProShop on fundamentals, how to get through ProShop, how to navigate, some other items, dashboards, and then they're off and running. And that's all managed digitally inside ProShop.
Awesome.
I love that. That's great. And I assume that it takes a little bit of burden off of personnel for onboarding new employees as well. They can in a little bit of a fashion, sort of self-serve in terms of getting up and going.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, when we hire a new young machinist, we will take them out and then kind of buddy them up with a machinist on the floor. And it used to be to where the first couple of days was the experienced machinist showing the new guy or gal, here's ProShop, here's how you log in, or not ProShop, but here's the ERP system, here's how you log in, here's where you find this information. So it's more just navigating the system. All of that is now taken care of before they even get to the shop floor. So now we get them on the shop floor, and it's like, okay, go ahead and log into ProShop. They know what that means. Pull up your work order. They know what that means. And they're doing tangible tasks, right? They're going to go gather material, maybe start building tools or start programming. That's really the first steps when they get on the floor, not navigating the computer system.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Well, we're getting close to the top of the hour. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, we're getting right toward the end of our hour. Didn't really leave a lot of time here for Q&A, but of course, if anyone does have any questions, we're here to help. Moving into a digital environment, a digital world can be daunting. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to us. I think we have our contact information there, Paul. Thank you. There you go.
Yeah.
So feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to help answer those questions and maybe even help you get on that path to digital transformation. Thank you for the NTMA for hosting us today. We really do appreciate it. If there's any other thing that we can help with, again, reach out to us, and we're happy to do so as soon as you need it.
Yeah, and thanks, Justin, for doing this today. And I appreciate you putting your email up here, so you're accessible. Yeah. Phone number if people want to ask you questions. And it's been an honor to be a partner for you and watch you do that crazy growth of the last several years. So congratulations on everything you've done.
Yeah, thank you guys for putting this together and doing this alongside me. It's been fun. And just a real quick plug for NTMA. If there's any shops out there that are not NTMA members or not, maybe you are a member but you're not involved, get involved locally, get involved nationally. Ideas like this run rampant at NTMA meetings, and it's full of shop owners, shop managers talking about challenges, solving, figuring out solutions to those. Paul, I know you go to a lot of NTMA events. It's such a great community of people, and it's all about helping shops succeed and helping owners of shops and managers of shops succeed. So get involved with NTMA if you're not already.
Yeah, great call to action. It's such an incredible networking group and so supportive and collaborative, and yeah, we really immensely enjoyed being part of it for the last few years. Awesome. Well, I think we need to wrap up and say goodbye to everybody. But
yeah, thank you, everyone. Appreciate all the time. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great holiday season, since that's where we are right now. And yeah, hopefully we'll chat soon.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
We'll see ya.